Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast. This is episode number 23, our third cast of October.
Oh, I was trying to figure out what you were second. Is like second cast of today?
It's our second spooky cast, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to.
Spooky cast.
I'm end of line.
And I am Handor.
Nightson.
Gigett!
And I'm last.
Is that your name now? Your name is And Last?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Oreztes.
Thanks for joining us. We have a bunch of different ways you guys can reach us. If you enjoy the cast, you can check us out on our website at pixelscandal.com. You can also shoot us an email at pixelscandal@gmail.com if you have any suggestions, some ideas, or want to send hate mail. That's fun too. We have a Twitter and Instagram, because who doesn't? We're at Pixel Scandal. Pretty easy. And then you can also catch our podcasts if you miss one of our shows on Spotify or iTunes. We always get those posted, I believe, Monday.
What's that really awful word that...
I can't remember! It's like
Podcatcher.
Podcatcher.
Yay, podcatcher.
Now, I don't mean to alarm you, Endo. But there seems to be Michael Myers and Freddy who are reading over your shoulder.
Yeah.
And they seem to be really rude about it. Like they're just kind of crouching over your shoulder. And
they're my
friends.
Freaking there, man. They're my friends.
Yeah,
so the topic today is horror movies.
Horror movies, so yeah, that's going to be our spotlight topic.
We're gonna talk about it.
Spooky movies.
Spooky movies. Well, cool. Yeah, so that is going to be our spotlight topic. What are our announcements, End of Line?
We have our game day tomorrow, our scheduled game night tomorrow night. That's going to be Friday the 13th, Puzzle Challenge. We're going to be doing our very first couch co-op single-player game. We're super excited about it. We're going to murder some campers. We're going to murder some counselors, because they've been naughty, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. And then we have our November 10th Dungeon World. We're picking up in Dungeon World. We've had a couple of one-shots, and we're returning back to Dungeon World on November 10th. Yay. That'll be at 9 a.m., so come get your hats. Again, Handor is going to explore his feelings.
Oh, you said hats. I forgot. I totally prepped a hat for tonight.
Oh, man. I can't reach my hat. It's right there.
There we go. I'm in
Katie.
costume, y'all.
Gidget, why don't you tell everyone what we're excited about this week?
We are excited about certain things that are on this list here. Okay, so Gauntlet Con is next week. So for Kurt, we are announcing that for him. He still has space available in his Sunday game, which is in his system setting that he wrote. Nuclear Night School, and that is his Sunday game, so that still has space available. GauntletCon, you can go to gauntlet.com and sign up for games.
We have played it. It's super fun. It's like the 80s movie trope with magic. It's actually really awesome.
Super 80s nostalgia, and he's not here, so we can talk nicely about it, because if he's here, we don't want to make him have a big
I would prefer to talk shit about it, so I must be telling the truth.
I know, right? And then what else do we got here? Oh, I have a thing. I'm gonna skip Tyler's for a second. I have a thing. So I got a book. It's called Hag. It's written by Kathleen Kaufman. It is a period piece, kind of spoopy. We talk about Christopher Gray quite a bit on our cast here, and this is actually written by his wife.
Wow.
And
the 50 Shades guy, right?
yeah, the 50 Shades guy. Yeah,
that's never gonna get old.
His wife is Kathleen Kaufman. She writes kind of period horror. No, maybe not horror, but spoopy, supernaturally type stuff. Anyway, so it's called Hag. I just started it. So far, super good. So it's on Amazon. You can totally pick it up. It's really good.
Right on. We'll post a link.
Yeah. Totes.
We should do a giveaway sometime.
We should do.
I think we're planning to.
Yeah.
Probably will be pretty
coming.
soon.
It's coming up. So yeah. Endo, what do you got? What are you excited about?
Well, we all got an email, and
did.
I don't think anyone was
No, not all of
particularly
us.
shocked. Well, all of us that originally played it, but apparently WildStar is closing up shop.
Wah,
Not
wah.
terribly shocking, I think, but it's happening. So for fans of that game, I'm sure you must be aware. We had a very shaky relationship with WildStar. We were actually early founders of the game, and it was a challenge for us. The game had a lot of issues. It kind of recovered, but it took a long time to do so, which kind of tends to happen a lot of times when a game launches a little earlier than it should have, or didn't have a particularly lengthy or quality beta testing phase where enough things get changed quickly enough. And they kind of figured, well, we'll just tune things afterwards and play catch up. And
See, I don't think QA was really as big an issue so much as
on the end game,
but the end game was fine for the people who got to participate. The problem was that they went into the game thinking any decision had to be made from casual equals bad.
Right.
And honestly, it's kind of a life lesson for anyone to go into development to realize that you cannot cater to just the elite niche. You really do require your casual base in order to pay for it.
Yeah. Pantheon.
I don't think that that's true. I'm going to disagree with that. However, I think you have to be clear in what your game is.
They were very clear about that.
They didn't. They definitely were clear that there was going to be a challenging end game and that there would be a 2-minute gating, but I don't think they were very clear with people how grindy it was going to be. I mean, the thing turned into a Korean MMO like around level 30, and everyone was like, "What game is this?" It wasn't clear on that.
The art was really cool, and I think a lot of the ideas they had for the world and stuff were kind of neat, but yeah, it just definitely didn't hold up for anybody who couldn't sink a whole lot of time into it.
And also on top of it, sci-fi just doesn't do as well in that
Which is
environment.
sad.
Truth be told. Yeah, it's incredibly depressing for me because I prefer sci-fi to fantasy.
I also love sci-fi.
Sci-fi's great.
Yep.
It's a harder sell. Fantasy's a lot easier,
Yeah,
if I'm being honest.
everyone's seen Lord of the Rings,
Right.
Yeah.
so a lot of those tropes just you get them for free. People are just like, oh yeah, I know what an orc is.
Right. Well, Nightson, I see you have something you're excited about here.
Yeah, so I became enamored with a game a couple months ago, and a board game, and it was out of print. It was called Bargain Quest.
Okay.
It is a game in which you and it's a game like many others in which a town is beset by evil monsters, and the heroes must drive them out. The difference is you're not the heroes; you're the shopkeepers who sell equipment to the heroes.
I was gonna say this Bargain Quest sounds like, what are you buying? Like storage rooms or storage closets and trying to sell off the stuff.
Yeah, and then secondly, you're the whole saving the town not as important as making money.
That's so awesome.
And so I became enamored with it, but it was out of print. Well, they did a second printing completely unbeknownst to me. It went up to Kickstarter, it got funded, and they're doing a pre-order up and through the end of the month.
Nice.
And
I'm
so
getting it.
Does that
And
mean we
so-
get to play it?
I have already pre-ordered it. It will be
Yay!
hypothetically in January.
Nice.
Yay! That's exciting. I like it when you guys buy games because it means I get to play them.
Yeah,
We
it's
should
just-
have our setup for board games set up by then.
yeah.
We should. Yeah,
To
we're
stream.
working on that. Cool.
And so yeah, I'm super excited. It's and I'll make sure we post a link to that as well as if anyone is interested.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I forgot, and so I just added it. But something I'm very excited about was Doctor Who came back last week with the new doctor, the new female doctor. And I was really concerned that it wasn't going to be good because I didn't like the last doctor, and it was super good. It was totes good. It was real solid. And it's actually I saw an interview with her, and she was talking about how they're not bringing in anything from the old doctors or they're going to try really hard to make this season feel very standalone, so that if somebody wanted to pick up Doctor Who at this season and not have watched anything in the past, they wouldn't feel like lost by like, oh, who's that? Why is this important? And it did. It felt very standalone, and it felt very like fresh and new, and picking up the series and running forward without kind of all the old.
To be
tropes.
honest, having a series like that's been out for what, 10 years now? Since the reboot, like it's been 10 or 15.
4, so yeah, it's been a while.
Been almost 15 years.
Yeah.
You kind of can't, especially if you want to make a radical shift like that, is a great time to go, you know what? You don't need to watch 10 years of TV to catch up and have an idea what's going on.
Right. And I think the last 3 Doctors, they really dragged not consistent stories, but bits and pieces or different companions that would pop up throughout episodes. And, for those of us that have watched every single episode and all the seasons, they go, oh my gosh, look, it's that person. But if you had never seen it, you'd be like, why do I care about this curly haired broad that's calling everybody sweetie? Like, why do you care about this? But the rest of us are like, oh my God, it's River Songs.
Well, I'm sure everyone has had that show that they're trying to pitch to a friend or a significant other or a family member. And they're like, it's only 5 seasons and you can catch up with it over the course of 6 months as you watch television. And
Look at a Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I'm 2
Final
seasons
season.
behind, and my partner was watching it. I didn't know who anyone was or what the hell was going on. Like, I watched it for like 15 minutes. Like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with this until I catch up.
Yeah, you can't just jump in the middle. You have to go back.
Nor
to the
should you, but yeah, I can certainly see you're trying to rebrand, you're trying to reinvent. Hey, you're trying to regenerate your brand.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't get it.
what's up, Handor?
I just thought of something that I am excited about.
Oh.
What are you excited about?
For all of those who have watched the first documentary of Making a Murderer, I have long been awaiting the return as, what's her name? Kathleen Zellner, I believe that's her name.
Yep.
Very well recognized defense attorney, specifically in turning over cases of people who have been falsely accused. She took up Stephen Avery's case, and they are coming out with Making a Murderer 2, I think here by the end of October. I think
Nice.
mid-October, so pretty freaking pumped about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also that was really good. Sweet. Well, cool. Let's move into what we've been playing recently, guys. I know on Friday we did a little well, not we, because I wasn't there, but you guys played a little Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, we played Cheater Dead by Daylight.
How so?
Well, a certain individual that will remain nameless and definitely isn't the person who started the stream today, decided to play the devil on the killer's shoulder, who had omniscience.
Oh.
And so it presumably did not go well for any would-be survivor, and the term only applies very loosely in that case.
Yes. Cheater survivors leading around your killers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun.
I definitely have had the stream open on one screen while I was playing on the other screen, and I could see on either Kurt or End of Line screen what they were doing while I was playing the killer, and I totally didn't use that to my advantage at all. Oh, well, cool. Well, this morning we played West Falls Follies, which was our RPG game for the month.
MVP.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
You
He's
definitely were the MVP of that game.
sorry we all played our characters in the game. Jeez.
I mean, I love that you guys ran off to go get the cops and then came back and were like, oh, here, let me help. Let me just help take that killer out for you there. Well, cool. And I'm sure that will get posted to our YouTube channel sometime in the next couple of days if anybody wants to go back and watch that. And you guys have been playing Final Fantasy. How's that been going?
Yeah.
Bought a house.
Yeah.
Did we bought a house last night?
Yeah, finally figured out how to do that, so we went and bought a house, and I furnished it. And
What exactly does that mean? You bought a house? Because I barely played that game.
so
It's so weird. You wearing that hat and drinking out of that long ass fucking beer glass.
So,
What's the word about it?
unlike a lot, well, I'd say a lot of MMOs, but
This is
I would
also
say most MMOs are cut 50-50 nowadays that have player housing versus don't. And essentially it's just player housing, except it's for a guild, so there's furniture, you can set it up, and amenities you can install in it.
I heard something about a basement full of books.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a what's the famously like really bad, not bad, but the
World of Warcraft?
no, the furniture that you get in order and you put it together. What do they call that?
Oh, IKEA?
The IKEA, yeah. You guys got a lot of like IKEA stuff in there going in. That shit you put together and it falls over.
Then no, that thing back there in the background is IKEA furniture. Actually,
Oh
my
my
desk is IKEA too.
Oh no, we've done the equivalent of garage sailing, just going to the auction house and just seeing what's cheap and going, how does this look? How does this look? Oh, this looks cool. Oh, this was cheap as hell.
Nice. Just it's kind of like your first college apartment slapped together with yard sale pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
They've
Sitting
got some
on-
not so cheap pieces in there also.
Yeah.
Well, that's how you do it, right? You trade out one piece at a time for a nicer piece of furniture. It's like life. Cool. Who's been playing GTA?
Oh, that would be me.
So what are you
Yeah.
doing in GTA? I have not played in several long years.
Yeah, I think it's probably been 4 years since I played GTA, and specifically online. Rando, who's technically a part of Pixel Scandal, but hasn't
Been
Is he?
around.
hasn't appeared on anything.
He was
for-
on- he was on the
Participated
stream
in
yesterday.
anything?
Yeah, he was on yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
First
right.
time
Yeah.
Since, I believe Golf with Friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally play again because that game's super fun.
It is fun. I honestly
Yeah.
want to do. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they added a full Steam Workshop, so people are making maps out
Oh,
the zoo for it now.
Shit. Are you serious?
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
That could be fun. So I think what happened was Rando had seen that I was downloading it because I wanted to just see if my character had been saved and get in there and play some, single player stuff. And he must have saw me load it up or something. He's like, "Oh, GTA," and convinced me to get back into playing online. And now I've been pumping the last week and a half of probably every waking minute until it was bedtime into getting a
Life?
CEO
Prostitute
building.
your trunk.
I did spend a little bit of time at the strip club. I may or may not have gotten a booty call every now and then.
Now for the $74,000 question, how much real life money have you invested in the game?
Okay, come on, man. You really gotta put that on me while we're
Oh,
live
yeah.
like this?
So the answer is more than he's willing to admit. Because if the answer is none or just a few bucks, he would have come out and
The
said
answer. Yeah.
I'm so glad right now that I'm single.
You
that.
got a little
So-
central income, right?
So when I asked you yesterday how the grind has, how you're finding the grinding, the answer is you're not because your credit card is feeling the weight. Gotcha.
Okay, yeah. So
Don't forget, you got to pay for PAX soon, so don't spend
yeah.
all the money in GTA.
I think I spent the first 3 hours playing and doing missions and doing all the stuff, right? Doing the grind, whatever. And I was like, oh, the shop's working? Let me just look. Let me just take a look, So I took a look in the shop, and they're like, get the whole military bundle for $69.99. And I'm like, that's not so bad if I play it. Boom, $70 authorized through Steam. And then
This would be the
Couple days-
big difference between you and Nightson spending money on
Yeah.
games.
Oh, massive, yeah.
Yeah, big difference there.
Yeah, polar opposites. And then I think I blew through about 10 mil. I think I blew through about 10 mil in about 3.5 to 4 hours or so. Because I got a bunker, I got an office, I bought 2 apartments, I bought a warehouse for storing my drugs. I bought a cargo plane, a cargo Bob helicopter that can carry vehicles, and when I ran out of money, I decided to dump another $90 to the game for another 10 mil.
So I will avoid actually quoting the price of those purchases on this stream, but as an exercise for the reader, feel free to go look, and you can make your judgments as you will.
Man, and I thought I was bad for spending $25 on a mount.
Yeah, we've been giving you shit about that all week.
Yeah. You guys need to put stuff in a perspective.
Really pretty though. I mean, it's the prettiest mount.
It is.
Oh, but
sparkly
it's
bunny
spark.
rabbit.
my apartment is fantastic, and I have a garage with tons of nice sports cars.
And yet your chair is falling apart which you sit.
What? That I tried to color in with brown marker because I'm like, it looks like I just put my butt up against it and sat on it and gave a good push.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
whatever.
No,
Hey, man.
Weasel, I wouldn't call GTA pay to win so much as it's taken pay to play to the nth degree. So much of the content is gated behind purchases that you could grind out, sure, but no normal people don't have the faculty to actually do so. And so it's designed to encourage you to do exactly as he has and throw away real life dollary dues.
Well, yeah. Here's the main difference, right? So what it is, I bought a nightclub. I bought a bunch of stuff, and that nightclub, you do some minuscule missions, stuff that you can do solo, even in what's called passive mode, where you're not being, in passive mode, so that you're not being bothered by other players or being killed. And what happens is when you do those missions for that nightclub gets established to the point where it's just generating money for you. And to be totally honest, Rando and I have had the most success earning money doing the original heists. That's where the majority of the money truly comes from.
So is it like Second Life? Like, can you somehow make this into real money, like a real income or something? No, you can't like turn around and sell all your in-game money that you've earned for like real money.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. I probably spent $200. Okay. And it's forever.
I've probably spent more than that on Path of Exile. I've played it
How?
9 seasons.
And this is an honest question. What is there to buy? I'm legitimately curious.
No. Stash tabs, so you can sell. I have a lot of stash tabs, like kind of a hoarder in that game. Aesthetics, like they do like packs every season where you can get a bunch of aesthetics and gear, visuals, and town portal visuals and stuff like that. So it's all aesthetic stuff. The only pay-to-convenience thing they have are tabs, which are optional, but I mean it's hard to live without them. Everything else is purely aesthetic. There's no pay-to-win in that game. It's all pay-convenience only. But I've been playing it for a long time.
Yeah, no, and by all means,
it's kind of like I usually do about $25-30 a season, which is about once every 3 months or 4 months.
I'm giving Handor a hard time here, but truth be told, I think we all have invested quite a few dollars in DLC and whatnot over the.
EverQuest 2.
EverQuest 2 or Warframe for me. I've put quite a few dollary dues into that.
Yeah, we both have.
Look, I'll fully admit the ongoing joke within Pixel Scandal in this group is you guys all know that we play a game, we play it for a week, and I will be the first one to spend and drop $60 inside of a game.
We're all game hoppers.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that. I accept that.
I think it was League of Legends where I realized that when you were like you had all the the skins and you had all the tunes and all the whatever, and it was like, oh, okay, so Matt, okay, cool. That's how that works.
So End of Line introduced me to that game. Well, End of Line and Nightson introduced me to that game, and they're like, you gotta check it out. And
it has a cash shop. I'm in.
And before I even knew what was like, I had the game loaded up, and before they could even get me into a player versus bots match, I bought Varus, bought a fucking skin for his ass, and loaded into the game. And End of Line's going. He decides he's going to support me and teach me how to play carry. I don't know if they call him carry anymore, but I get in lane with him. He's like, "What the fuck?"
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. We haven't played that game in a really long time, but when I got an email saying that they were making BMO, I had to go patch the game and buy the BMO skin
and then proceed to uninstall it.
I played like 2 matches in it, and I haven't played since. But I was like, I have to have the B.
And no remorse.
No, not one bit.
I think there would be a lot of value and entertainment in us doing a dedicated show to DLC and all the fun things that we've encountered over the years.
Yeah.
But I do think that as we're drawing up to this point, it's probably time to move on to our spotlight.
I completely agree. So moving into our spotlight topic tonight, we're going to be talking about horror movies. So Endo, do you want to take the reins?
Yep, let me lead with HORR.
Yeah, horror game.
Movies. We all say it so fast, it all sounds like we're talking about horrors.
Yep.
There's a lot of overlap, I'll be fair.
There is a lot of overlap, but we'll get to that.
Crossover.
So it's October. I don't know how many of you do. I think Gigett does, I'm pretty darn sure. I love Halloween. I've always loved horror movies. I've watched more than I would like to admit. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so that our listeners here can understand why you referenced me, my dad used to do professional haunted houses, and I've grown up around a lot of horror and special effects and that kind of stuff. So I definitely have
and theater. Which is,
huge appreciation for Halloween and anything spooky.
I think, oddly, my infatuation with horror comes from a Blockbuster video that was like a block from my house, and you could rent 2 horror movies for $1. I was like, well, that's the most media efficient purchase.
Yep.
We're doing horror, and so me and a friend, we'd go 10 years old and rent 2 horror movies. The guy behind the counter didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because it's Blockbuster video.
Right.
And would watch would basically do that Friday night, Saturday night, and then, watch way too much of it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You guys remember when they did the 5 for 5 or whatever?
No.
5 days for $5.
Didn't have that one.
Yeah, it was like 5 days for $5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know why you would need a movie for 5 days.
I don't either.
It was good for video games, though.
You could split it up, though. You could do 5 movies for a day.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I'd be into that.
Yeah, I did it constantly, every weekend, I think.
Yay, aging ourselves. Anyway, keep
Yeah,
going.
Blockbuster Video is a place where you could rent video cassettes, which were like DVDs, but were analog.
That you had to rewind before you brought back, or they would charge you.
Charge you, yeah.
Be kind, rewind.
And some people went out and bought fucking machines that rewound because your fucking VCR.
And if you want to see a very funny iteration of that Be Kind Rewind, you should check out Kathleen Turner's Serial Mom. There's a scene in that movie that I think that will make you chuckle.
I think
that movie is amazing.
I'm gonna note real quick. I think this is the first time I've ever acknowledged how thoroughly VHS is dead.
Yeah.
To make me realize that, oh yeah, there are people who have never ever heard of it.
Oh yeah.
And that's the first time I've noticed that there are people it's just I haven't even thought about VHS for 10 years.
I remember having both of my kids in the living room, and I'm like, oh, y'all gonna learn today. We're gonna watch Legend. We're gonna watch Labyrinth. We're gonna watch Legends, Labyrinth. Like
Dark
all my
Crystal.
favorite movies when I was a kid, and I start pulling out these VHS tapes, and the boy, the face was like, "What the hell is that?
Why are
What
you
on
pulling
earth
a
is
book
that?"
out?
And like you start playing it, it does the whole scribble scratchy video like at the beginning. It's just like giving me this face.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
But you know, so, just real quick, and then we can keep going. Some of that has to do with the generation being pretty ignorant to things, and specifically what I'm talking about is when Kanye West did the song with
Adolf Hitler?
he with one of the Beatles. Gosh dang it, it doesn't matter. And
It involves
everyone's like,
Kanye West. It
McCartney.
definitely does not matter.
yeah, he does a song with Paul McCartney, and Facebook blows up with, "Oh man, Paul McCartney's like the luckiest dude ever, because he's gonna get so much recognition doing a song with Yeezy." I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is
yes, I
okay. Anyways,
painful. Anyway, so Endo, please continue with our love of
Yeah. So,
Wars.
whores.
here's the thing. Horror movies have always been around, but back in the, the early 80s through the 80s and the early 90s, as a genre, it was really predominant. You had a lot of movies that were coming out in a really fast pace. A lot of them were terrible. The kind of B, C, and D grade horror movies, as terrible as they were really enjoyable for their own weird merits. Then the genre kind of died down.
Yep.
And we're going to talk about why. But I would like to go around, and I want everyone to say what their favorite horror movie is, if you even like horror movies. Well, we'll start with Handor. What's your favorite scary movie of all time?
my favorite scary movie of all time is a tie between two movies.
Okay.
And I'm gonna get a lot of shit for saying this, because I'm probably one of the few people that is dumb enough. But Blair Witch Project, when that first came out, and everyone believes.
All right,
that,
Nightson, what's your favorite scary movie?
right?
He said two. What was the other one?
What's the other one, Handor?
Paranormal Activity. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. The first Paranormal Activity was shockingly quite good.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Nightson?
The sad truth is, I'm looking through some of our list here of things to touch on, and most of them I would classify in my top list of things I've,
If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one that is my kind of...
that you'd get us all in a room together and say, okay, we're all going to watch this together, what movie would that be?
As weird as it sounds, I absolutely adore the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was actually really good.
Yep.
That was
the
real
remake
good.
was dope.
Real good.
What about you, Gigett?
Whew. All right. So, God, there's so many that I absolutely love, but because it was kind of the first one I was allowed to see,
Ooh.
with
or without permission?
Well, obviously without.
Oh, that's the best.
Was Exorcist.
Oh wow, that's a rough one to start with.
I was about 7, and
Oh man!
my.
Oh goodness!
I watched The Exorcist, which is why I have a problem with possession movies.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that about me.
That is a rough first outing right there.
But that was my first horror movie, and no one knew I was watching it. I don't think I slept for days afterwards. And now every time I see it, I'm like, oh, childhood. So yeah.
I realize that movie is iconic, but I didn't see it until I was 16 or 17, and we watched it, like a bunch of us, we had a Halloween party, and we're like, we'll watch The Exorcist.
Right.
That movie is really boring and slow to get going.
It is,
at the beginning.
unless you're 7.
Yeah, we ended up all falling asleep during the movie.
No.
It was so boring, we all fell asleep. And then I was woken up by the scene where she's flipping back and forth on the bed and whatnot.
Yeah.
I woke up and just bust out laughing. Everyone wakes up.
I'm gonna call it now. When we show Halloween 1978 in the 20th, Nightson is not gonna make it through a quarter of the movie.
No, he totally won't.
Because it is also quite slow.
I
Oreztes, what's yours?
My favorite movie that people have probably heard of is gotta be Hellraiser. Just because I love Pinhead and the Cenobites, those guys are amazing, and the writing is so cool because I love evil demon things. But my favorite movie that probably nobody in the world has ever heard of is called Black Roses, and it's about like it's a rock band that went to this little small town and started performing concerts, and it was turning all the kids into like demons. But the soundtrack has like a whole bunch of just like really awesome metal bands from the 80s in it, and it was really good. It was just a horrible monster movie with the prosthetic makeup and the giant demon heads and all that stuff, but it was great.
I'll have to check that
Nice.
one out.
What about you, Endeline?
I think my favorite is, it's kind of weird. I kind of lump my favorite movies in kind of time periods. Like I have my classic horror movie, my slasher horror movie.
Absolutely.
But I think the movie that, as just a movie that I really gravitated to a lot, is not very popular at all. But it's called In the Mouth of Madness. And it's a movie that I really like. It's got like an H.R. Geiger kind of feel to it. It's not something a lot of people have seen, but I would really suggest checking it out. It's a fantastic movie. But Halloween 2 was the first. I actually saw Halloween 2 before I saw Halloween 1. And it's probably my favorite classic one just because it was the first kind of slasher film I ever saw. And it was like really intense.
Yeah. Yeah, when my parents found out I had watched Exorcist, they kind of went, all right, whatever, fine. What do you want to watch now?
She's broken.
She's
Just move on
ruined.
to the
Yeah.
next one.
Well, I mean, from there, everything else is going to be pretty tame.
Right, yeah. So that's, I saw a lot
The
in
damage
quick
is done.
succession right after that.
Yeah.
Thinking back, I think the first, and I don't really remember if this was a thriller horror movie necessarily, and I don't even remember the title of it. Maybe you guys will know it, but I remember being very young and my older brother letting me stay up late and watch it, and it was they were exploring really deep in the ocean in this small submarine, and this like water thing took its own shape.
Oh, The Abyss?
Abyss?
Yeah.
The Abyss.
That's a
yes.
fantastic one. Yeah, Abyss.
Yeah, that was
great,
my
man.
first movie.
I love The Abyss.
Can't believe I forgot the name.
That
of
old?
Abyss and Leviathan
It
were the
is
two
old.
quote-unquote underwater horror movies of the time.
I thought that was like 90s.
might have
No. Hang on.
It's pretty old, though.
I saw it at the theaters sometime in it's probably like 88, 89, I think.
Okay.
89.
Yeah.
Well, then Canna, so maybe maybe it was 90s by the time it made it to me.
Well, I mean, in 89, I was 4. So,
Yeah, I was 9.
I hate to do this to you guys, but it was another movie. It was right after another movie my older brother would let me watch. He would let me watch all of them, along with the Freddy movies. But one that I'll never forget is...
But you can't remember.
And I can never remember the names of these. It's based on a true story. The young man that gets... they're lumberjacks in Midwest somewhere.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
No. And he ends up missing for like 3 days. They honestly believe he was abducted by aliens, and they end up finding him butt naked, like
I know what you're talking about.
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky. If you guys
Weird
please,
movie. Weird.
Yeah.
dude,
It was, yeah.
it's a good movie. I
It's good.
honestly suggest checking it out. Just if you're an open-minded, and you enjoy movies, check it out.
I don't know if I call it a good movie. I would call it an experience. It was definitely a good experience.
And the fact that it's based largely on a something that actually.
Well, that movie is why I have like a legitimate fear of gray aliens.
The gray ones are always the evil ones.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? And the green ones are really nice.
always.
It's
No,
super
the gray
weird.
ones are assholes, man. They got their giant eyeballs and their little slit mouths, man. These guys are creepy as hell. I can't even watch like Sci-Fi Channel when they're showing an alien show. If they put a picture of a gray up, I gotta avert my eyes.
I will keep that in mind.
What were the aliens inside?
Talking about Chucky, and I gotta say, Kurt was really little when Chucky came out, and I guess he had watched it like on one of those really late night HBO type movie things without his parents knowing. And it was right before Christmas time, and he unwrapped his Christmas present, and it was a My Buddy doll. And
oh my God, I was literally about to bring up My Buddy. So
yeah, so he like screamed and freaked out, and his parents didn't understand why, and he wouldn't stop screaming until they like took the My Buddy doll out of the house. Like they had to go put it in the car before he would stop freaking out.
Burn it.
He has told that story so many times, but yeah, he that was like he saw that way too little, and it freaked the fuck out of him. Yeah, so Chucky. So yeah,
Haven't seen most Stephen King movies. Are they worth it? Some are and some aren't. As far as
It depends on who you ask. Like if you ask me, my two favorite Stephen King movies are Night Flyer and Langoliers, and they are both horrible movies.
Langoliers was especially atrocious just because it didn't represent the book at all as well as it should have.
Dreamcatchers was awful too.
Dreamcatchers was handled terribly as well. I think the biggest releases of Stephen King movies that, I mean, again, you're going to get wildly different answers, but of course there's It, which was a 2-part TV release, which was kind of grounded down into 2 movies. I think it was 4 hours total, which for It, if you've ever read the book, is really condensed. And then, of course, they did The Stand. Which, again, I don't know that I would ever say The Stand is horror. I don't think it is. I've never thought it was. It certainly has some horror parts to it. There's definitely some spooky parts, but I don't think it's really horror. But I think that translation was done as well as it could be done for television, in my opinion.
Check if you want to see a cheesy horror from Stephen King. Check out Thinner.
Yeah, I like Thinner.
I thought Thinner was good. Yeah, I thought Thinner was good. Pet Sematary, the first one, I thought was
awesome.
Amazing.
Oh my God.
And they're rebooting it with John Lithgow. Yeah.
2019, yeah. Or you could just skip watching the movie and just go download the Pet Sematary soundtrack and listen to the theme song by the Ramones. So good. Such a good song.
I was partial to the TV version of The Shining.
Yeah, the one where he's actually using the croquet mallet and not the
And it was 6 parts.
And it was done really, really well too.
It was long enough to actually take the time to do it right.
I recently heard a rumor that the woman that played in The Shining actually suffered from some serious.
Wasn't that Kathy Bates or something like that?
No. It was the lady that played Olive Oil in the Popeye movie. I remember that.
Yeah.
She like quit acting and like
Shelley Long.
Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall. That's it.
Duvall.
Yeah, she flipped out, dude. That director.
Yeah, that movie
freaked her out.
Yeah.
Little known fact. Stephen King hated the Shining movie. Absolutely hated what they did with the movie.
I didn't actually like the movie very much, to be honest.
The book's good though.
Or you could always go watch The Dark Tower.
No.
Which I still haven't seen.
No.
Or The Green Mile, which everybody has seen.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing about Stephen King. He kind of runs the gambit. Like he does the drama, he does the suspense, he does the thriller, he does the horror, and he does it really well.
Or Shawshank Redemption, wasn't that his?
Shawshank Redemption's amazing. Anyways,
I love Misery though. Misery is so good.
Misery,
Misery is amazing, and nobody could have played that character better.
Yeah.
So let's talk about tropes. Anytime you're talking about horror movies, this always comes up, and that's movie tropes, because horror movies are full of them, and they're pretty consistent with them too. Sometimes they color outside the lines, but for the most part, you'll find that horror movies kind of have these particular tropes. The first one is not as much a thing as back in the old 80s and 90s genre horror movies, but it certainly is prevalent now, especially in the newer, more recent horror movies, but that is the jump scare. You know, the one where the person's kind of closing the door and all of a sudden something bursts through the door and just startles the audience. Can anyone recall any jump scares that really caught you off guard and startled the hell out of you?
You know, actually, last night I was binge watching. Netflix has done a remake of The House on Haunted Hill,
Haunted Hill, yep.
as a 10-part series, and I was watching it last night, and there were two in those 10 episodes. There were 2 times where they got me really good, where I was like, oh, everything's cool, it's bright, it's sunny, and then holy shit, like
I think Elle was watching that last night. Was one of them where like the guy was talking to his wife and like somebody called and she was dead, and he turned around and looked and she just like turned into a ghost and started screaming at him or something?
Yep.
Yeah, that was spoopy.
it was
It looked
good.
neat. I wasn't really paying attention, but it looked interesting.
Yeah.
I really wish I remember what it was. It was a couple weeks ago. I literally was watching something, just super relaxed, watching a horror movie, of course, and had one and almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah. So that's like just a few nights ago. Got done playing GTA Online. Was chilling out to relax, and get ready for bed. And it was just the stupidest. It's almost every movie has that. The moment where they open the door or whatever, and there's nothing really going on. It's the quiet part of the movie, but the fucking birds come flying out, and they're fucking loud as fuck, And you're just like, fuck you, and it's just because they do it all the time. You should expect it, and it's just a loud flock of birds.
Yep.
I think
honestly the best jump scares are when it's not something that's actually scary, but they've lulled you into like a calm sense, and then something pops up, and like you said, like birds or
something innocuous.
Something, and you're like, and then you're like, oh, it's just birds or whatever. That's the best.
And then you're like, oh, that's not real, and then they hit you with the real.
Yeah,
and then the jump scare.
Here comes the really real. Also too, I just realized, is there such thing as like the freeze scare? Because I remember watching The Ring, and the girl coming out slowly and crawling like out of the TV, dripping wet, and I'm like, fucking frozen in my chair, and I like can't move because I'm like, please don't fucking come any closer.
You're like holding your breath, and you're like,
Yeah. When I first watched that was pretty good.
Yeah. I do that a lot when I'm like worried about something. I like, if I don't move, then the character in the movie scene either.
Yeah.
I'll be real quiet for you. Random fraud in the movie that's gonna get eaten right now.
All the monsters are the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. If I don't move, it won't see me.
Right, exactly. What about you, Endeline? Do you have like a specific jump scare that's gotten you?
The one that comes to mind the most is in Halloween 1. I'm not kidding, but it is in Halloween 1, and I don't want to spoil it for Nightson, but yeah. Let's just say it involves wearing a sheet quickly after that scene.
Yes.
Yeah. And it happens in the kitchen.
Yes.
That one, and it's so weird because you know it's coming. Like, even if you've never seen it, you know it's coming, but I'm never prepared for it. And honestly, to the credit, it's John Carpenter. It's that synth sound that happens when it happens that startles the shit out of you. Like, say whatever you will about Halloween movies and whatnot, but man, John Carpenter had that sound, the music and the sound effects.
For sure.
It sets such a tone to that movie where when something does happen, you're like jarred. And that scene for sure had me like gripping my chair. I was like, oh shit.
You know what? I'm actually a rather jumpy person. Like if I'm standing at the end of a hall or like in the bathroom and somebody in the house walks up quietly behind me and is like, hey, and they weren't even trying to scare me, I jump out of my skin. Like I'm like, oh my God. Like I freak out really easily. So when I'm watching a movie and there's a jump scare, like I definitely have like a big...
You're already halfway jumping before it even happened. So.
I'm like, it's coming, it's I mean, I can't help it. I'm just a jumpy fucking person.
Yeah, I'm usually not jumpy at all, or like I'm very.
All right.
Oh,
no, he meant boo.
Oh.
He meant boobs.
Yes.
Oh, boobs. Oh,
That's
yeah. Okay, so I don't know.
No, okay. So
That's into our next trope.
at game today, we were sitting here and I looked over and my teenager was standing in the hallway in the doorway just quietly. And there was a moment where I was like, oh, and realized it was my kid standing there.
I want to know his reaction mentally when his mom goes, ugh.
He always laughs. He laughs at me when I freak out because
He's getting payback on you for that time on Easter where you put that 6-foot-tall inflatable rabbit outside his door.
yeah, dude, that was amazing. No, but that's the thing in our house. Like, I will sneak up behind him on purpose and be like, ah, and then he screams because he's jumpy
Yeah,
like I am.
he is.
And
He is jumpy.
he is super jumpy, just like me.
And
So
he does
it's
the ah.
so satisfying. If he didn't scream like that, I wouldn't want to scare him.
All right, let's move to the next trope. This one's a little controversial. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on it, but it has to be said because it is a thing. Scantily clad women.
I would like to spend all my time on that.
Okay. So
Or those.
in the first Scream, the nerdy movie guy kind of explains all of the like, if
yeah.
virgin, and if you don't say, I'll be right back, and explains all that stuff. And then as soon as Naomi Campbell loses her virginity, like she almost gets murdered. So like I feel like that is very much a thing. Like women, I think it's the movie creators' way of trying to make people feel vulnerable because this person isn't wearing any clothes, right? Like they're not wearing armor, they're completely covered, like they're naked. And so it's
I think
supposed
you might be reading
to
too much
feel
into that.
vulnerable. No, I actually read a whole article on it. Like it makes people feel vulnerable by watching someone be naked.
I don't know if that would
read
make me feel vulnerable. I think that would make me distracted and forget that there's a killer running around.
I think distraction is a bigger play on it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this is
Gigett.
something completely not a murder.
I don't think they're exclusive things. It can be all of those things.
No, it's one or the other.
Okay, so
I'll only think one thing.
Mine and I are sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, this woman is naked. How is she? Like, she's unprotected, and the killer's gonna come in." And you guys are like, "Ooh, boobs." So either way, we're feeling an emotion that is taking us, putting us in a way that's either making us feel vulnerable or taking us off guard, so that when the scary thing does happen, we're more susceptible to the scariness.
There is a book, and I should have went and looked at it because I've read it a long time ago, but it's written by a female writer who is a teacher who teaches horror movies, an actual class on horror movies in college. And she wrote this book a long time ago, and she kind of coined the term final girl, which we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
It's really a fantastic book. I suggest you read it if you're a fan of horror. But this topic actually is discussed at length. And there are a lot of aspects to this, but definitely vulnerability is definitely a piece to it. It allows you to feel like that person is not safe. It kind of places them in a predisposition of victimhood because of that they're not protected. There's no safety at all. They don't have, if you're clothed, it feels like armor. You feel shielded. You feel a little safer. It's not true. But you have this thought process in your head that you are, and that's, I think that is part of it.
Right. I mean, it's the same thing with having like the beautiful woman turn out to be like a monster, right? Like it takes you off guard, and then, bam, she's a vampire with a snake,
Wow.
Wait a second.
I think it's absolutely hysterical that you and I both thought the exact same thing while you were going that direction. that was the source I was about to cite.
What is that, like Queen of the Damned or whatever?
No, no, that is
Was that the Bram Stoker?
Tarantino.
Interview with the Vampire.
Oh no, Dusk Till Dawn.
No, Dust Till Dawn.
Oh.
Selma Hayek.
Movie,
Selma
guys.
Hayek. That's
I didn't know the vampire movie. Kurt was like, "Hey, let's watch this movie," and we sit down. I'm like, "Oh, it's a Tarantino movie. It's gonna be graphic, cool, okay, whatever." There's these two guys, and then bam, she's the vampire. Like I was completely off guard. I was just like, "Oh, sexy woman with a snake."
That's the thing. They tip nothing. That movie does a complete fucking 180 on a dime, and I love it for that.
Right, exactly.
Shout out to Salma Hayek. You're fucking hot.
She annoys the shit out of me, but anyway, that's a whole nother subject. No, but Batman here was talking about it, like, the three vampire broads in Van Helsing Like they're very sexy.
Wait,
They're
we
very
have Batman in our chat? Hold on, I need to turn on the stream.
Blake Ray and Batman. Yeah. You know, they're very attractive. And then when this very attractive woman becomes this scary monster, like it kind of, I mean,
Makes me want to become a scary monster.
Well, if you've seen a lot of horror movies, before they become a monster, you go, oh yeah, she's gonna be a bad guy. But I mean, at the time, like it's the movie's way of trying to disarm you and make you feel comfortable with that character before she tries to eat your face.
This takes us to the next topic because it's pretty closely related, and that is death by sex.
Death by sex.
Death by sex. Gigett brought up the Randy and Scream. I mean,
yep.
It's kind of explained there, but yeah, go ahead, Handor.
I was just gonna say, when we first started, we were going over our, our doc here, episode doc, and I said, "What is that?" I had never seen a movie with that. I was literally thinking, I was being so literal that, and then Weasel had mentioned, this such and such scene, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, duh, gotcha."
Well,
whenever
you can you can go and watch Teeth. You can have that literally if you want.
Or It Follows.
Vagina Dentata, it's a serious issue.
It Follows. Yeah,
It Follows on Netflix was actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, actually,
literal death by sex.
That is literally death by sex as well. So there are little representations of that, but no, we don't mean literally.
Even in like American Horror Story, though, there's like they're having sex and then one of the people kills the other person while they're mid-coitus. So I mean that death by sex happens as well.
Basic Instinct.
So death by sex in this trope, it means, and it usually ties into the final girl aspect, which of course we'll talk about, but it's based around purity. Generally speaking, the impure people in the film die, and the pure person ends up living. So if you're in a horror movie and you're doing drugs, or you're drinking, or you're rude, or mean, or have sex... If you have sex, that's the cardinal sin for a horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to get got. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
But that's what
die,
trope's
guys.
talking about. Yeah.
Whores die in horror movies. That's how that works.
Yeah. The next one, this is probably the most obvious one because you've seen it a million times, and that is the clumsy escape. Why can no one run a straight line?
Like if I were in a horror movie, I would die from being clumsy.
You would be the trope.
Hands down.
The movies with that, they instantly put me in this horrible mood. Like, I literally, like, when someone's eating and you can hear their lips smacking or whatever else, I instantly get pissed. Like somebody cut me off. When I see this, like.
What was that?
That's called misophonia, and you should go to the doctor about that.
Well, there's nothing you can do. So,
that's not true, but we'll talk about that
later. Well, yeah. Okay. Whatever you can do for it, I'm not doing that.
Anyways, moving on.
We'll just with you and Kurt.
They drive me crazy, man. They drive me crazy.
Well, it drives me crazy to see it because I know that I would do that.
Yeah?
Like I'm watching it and I go, yep, that'd be me.
I'm thinking like, please get stabbed, bitch. Please get stabbed, bitch.
Well, you usually get your wish, so it's usually pretty... I will attest to, though, running scared for your life and all of a sudden random shit happening. I remember as a youth, me and some guys were running away from something that scared the hell out of us. And one of us lost our shoe, and we had to go back for it.
And you leave the shoe.
No, we went back for the shoe. We literally did go back for the shoe because we're idiots.
Oh my god! So I grew up in a really rural area. We had like lots of grapevines and orchards and stuff around, and so my sister and I would run around with all of our friends in the middle of the night playing kind of these grab ass like hide and go seek type, we called it hide and go scare games out in the vineyards and in the orchards and stuff. And there were so many times, I mean, not just once, like multiple times where someone scared the shit out of me. I took off running and then immediately tripped on myself and planted face first into the ground. Like that's.
I love you, Gigett, but if that ever happens to you and me, I'm leaving you.
No, okay. So that's what Kurt's always said. He's like, well, that just means that everyone else is going to survive the horror movie
Got it.
because I stopped the killer long enough for you all to get away.
Well, to be fair, if it was ever in a situation where we were in a horror movie, I would probably be the killer.
That is true. That is true.
I actually
Are you
have
wearing a mask right now?
Yeah, right.
Good one.
I actually have a story of not necessarily that I tripped or fell or anything like that, but it was pretty crazy. What's the statute of limitations for vandalism? Because
If you have to ask the question, I think it's not safe to be said.
years ago, when I was a young boy, friends convinced me to go out and do like the toilet paper type thing or whatever, and we did that, and we finally came across this older man's garden, and he had it up on this large hill, and this hill just happened to slope perfectly down to this road, and as we stumbled upon it, we're like, oh man, this would be a fantastic time to take all of his we were young, we were stupid. We destroyed this, a year's worth, or a summer's worth of his growing, and we took all of his zucchini, all of his pumpkins, all of his whatever he was growing, and threw them into the road.
You're
And there was like
person.
I know. Trust me, I paid penance for this 3 times over. So we ended up making there was like 6 of us. We ended up making so much noise that we ended up hearing a guy come out. And we literally heard the noise of a shotgun racking a bullet, and we all just went to the all of us just hit the ground like that, and we heard him pull the trigger. No, we don't know if it was in our direction or not, but we all decided, after he pulled the trigger, that before he got the next rack off, we were gonna take off towards the woods, to rack another round into the chamber. And so, several of us ended up getting clotheslined by a very old barbed wire. And completely being laid out for...
I mean, were you okay?
No. It cut us, it cut 3 or 4 of us wide open along our foreheads, along our face. We got caught up in the barbed wire pretty good.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, he caught us.
Yeah.
Did he kill you?
Yes, he's dead.
Oh, sweet.
Handor is actually a ghost.
Spooky. Oh.
All right, Endo. So what exactly is the final girl?
The final girl is the most prevalent trope of horror movies, and it is the final girl who survives to the end to survive against the evil thing that's killed all of her friends, and somehow, because she is a pure soul, she survives and overcomes the killer.
Our heroine.
Yep. That is the final girl.
And it happens over and over and over again in horror movies.
Over again. Yeah. It's the most prolific of all of them, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's classic.
Thank you, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, was she the first?
I don't know. I mean, because there was like.
Isn't she Scream? She's Scream Queen, right?
Yeah, she was the first Scream Queen.
Yeah, she's.
Yeah, it's the first one I can recall. But
again, shout out to gorgeous women. Jamie Lee Curtis. She was.
Because what's her name? In Scream was the final girl over and over
Sidney
again.
Prescott, Nev Campbell.
Nev Campbell.
Definitely final girl.
Yep, definitely a final girl.
What's the
final girl in The Craft?
The Craft. I was just gonna say.
Yeah. The Craft. Yep. I love that movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. Mm-hmm. I have quite an affinity for movies that do practical effects. I mean, I think it's great that CGI has gotten better, but I really like when the monster is actually a monster and not CGI'd, and it's like someone's craftsmanship that made this scary creature, and it looks good and it's scary or real flames or whatever. Like practical effects, I mean, that goes deep in my heart.
Well, I think specifically with monsters that are CGI, it really falls into the problem of whatever's in your head is inherently scarier than whatever they came up with.
Right.
And as soon as they have CGI, they tend to think, let's put it on screen. Let's roll with it. Let's go and
overdo it.
Yeah.
The most I had this conversation a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when someone was talking about how much better CG is now for horror movies, and I completely disagree. And here's the one example that I gave to this particular person, and I literally went and found the scenes and side by sided them, and I was like, please tell me that this is better. Friday the 13th, when Freddy Krueger is coming through the wall and he's outstretching through the wallpaper and spreading out over the bed, right? In the original, the reboot that happened, where they redid the first one, where they
Nightmare.
What's that?
New Nightmare?
No, not New Nightmare. The actual Nightmare on Elm Street reboot with the completely different Freddy Krueger. The guy from the superhero movie, the Night. What's that superhero movie? Anyway, they rebooted it with a completely different Freddy, and they had. And Freddy Krueger's was a child rapist, not just a child murderer. Like they went there and did the whole thing. Well, anyway, they recreated that entire
less supernatural and tried to actually explain it away.
Yeah, it was like the super dark version of Nightmare on Elm Street. And they redid that entire scene, and they did it in complete CG, and it was fucking awful.
Well, CG that was 10 years ago. Like CG.
Well, even still though, it was Jackie Earle Haley played Freddy Krueger. He is the guy from Watchmen. He played the guy with the face with the
guy with the face.
Rorschach or whatever.
Rorschach. Yeah, he played Rorschach. That's what I remember him from. But anyway, they redid the Nightmare on Elm Street, and so those two scenes. If they had just said, "Hey, I'm not going to spend $40,000 CGing this scene and just do the practical effect," it would have been so much better and so much scarier. And they literally did that with just latex. That entire scene was done in latex back in that time. So yeah,
absolutely. And I think there's a lot to be said for practical effects. People feel like, oh, we could just wave our computer magic wand and make all the things that people dream up in their heads happen, but that doesn't necessarily translate well to actually creating a better looking effect.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. I mean, there are definitely certain places where you're like, okay, that was a place to use CGI.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I feel like practical effects have a better effect. So.
But in fairness, every time that they make that decision and they make it for the worse, it does further the art and it gets better.
True.
There was a show not too long ago on, I think, Discovery Channel called Monster Man, and it was just all about practical effects, like in horror movies and stuff.
Tom Savini is the god. He is the god of practical effects in horror movies.
Best thing about that whole show was the theme song was done by Devo, and they made a music video for it that was like Godzilla versus Ultraman. It was so good.
I'm getting definite themes that your affinity with horror and its accoutrement is directly related to music.
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of the practical effects, John Vulich is he is kind of the godfather of practical effects in movies and such. Most practical effects you've seen in horror movies have John Vulich's hands all over it.
But I'll be honest, in my opinion, some of the best effects have a touch of both.
That's true. A good blending of the two.
Blending, good. Did you mean to do that? Blending,
blending. Yeah, blend.
Like use a word. Did you mean to use a normal word?
No, I mean I'm thinking of saw, blender being blended.
Put someone in a blender and blend them together. Well, and that's the thing. You can't. There's certain things that you just can't do with a practical effect, and that's fine. That makes sense to me. I'm not saying everything needs to be practical effect. I just feel like a lot of times movies and directors and producers are like, oh, let's do this in CGI, and it doesn't need necessarily.
I mean, I hate to call it out, but it can be lazy. It's like, I don't need to figure out how to execute this as a practical effect. I'll just pay a bunch of nerds in Hollywood I'll just dump 40K into it, and they'll just deliver it to me. Done. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lost art making practical effects. Like the industry is going away from using practical effects, and so people are forgetting how to make practical effects actually look real and scary, instead of like, oh, look how fake that beating heart looks, or how fake that brain, whatever. My dad has a beating heart that he brings out every Halloween and walks around the neighborhood and freaks out all our neighbors with it. And that thing looks like he's holding. Dude, yeah, of course he does. He looks like he pulled his heart out of his chest. He covers it in fake blood, and it's got a pump so he can make it actually beat in his hand. And he walks around and freaks out all the neighbors.
I have to attribute some of that to the dying art of just trade skills in general too. I have to wonder if it's not cheaper for them to just do CGI, even if it costs, like you say, if you throw out 40,000. Because there's probably not as many people doing that trade skill anymore. Yeah. They're probably charging an arm and a leg now.
Maybe.
Well, and then you also have to consider the actors and whatnot that are involved in that scene.
Right.
If you have to do that practical effect 3-5 times, it's costing you a day of shooting to get that effect. Or you could have everyone at home and you work on it in the 6 months in between your movie released and post-production. So
that's true.
If you're wondering,
it's also a safety factor to some stuff.
If you're wondering if practical effects can be successful, it's a little bit of an older film now, but the Evil Dead remake.
Oh yeah.
I still need to watch that, and that's on Netflix.
So good, Nightson.
Yeah,
it is such a great remake.
I was a huge fan of the original one, even as campy as it was.
This one's less campy, and it's all practical effects and done really, really fucking well. But yeah, Evil Dead is complete practical. I think mostly practical effect, and I was stunned by that one. It was really good.
Yep. Yeah, there was one year where my dad got a goat's brain and put it like slashes on his forehead, and put the brain next to him on the ground and laid under the front tire of his car in our street. And then as the trick-or-treaters would run by, he would like yell out that he had got hit by a car, and that, like, his falling out of his head.
Your dad does, like, he goes like the 110%. Like,
yeah, man.
It's all or nothing.
He built an entire pirate ship in our front yard so my son could be Peter Pan when he was like 6. So
still there.
It's there to today. Yep. He also walked around with a fetal pig, and tried to get people to pet it, and told him it was his puppy, and he thought it was sick because he wasn't breathing.
Wow. Jeez, Pete, talk about scarring people.
That's the dad I grew up with, guys.
Yeah. No wonder why they didn't care you watched Exorcist at like 5.
Oh no, they cared. They were really upset when they found out I watched it, but that's
no. What happened was your parents got upset that they couldn't scare you themselves anymore.
They were probably upset that they didn't see me watch it for the first time.
Or that. It's like, man, we're not gonna be able to play practical jokes on her anymore because nothing will fucking scare her.
I'm so fucking scared. I am the easiest person to scare. It's because I enjoy being scared, which is why I love movies.
This is probably a stereotype, but there's a lot of women that do really do enjoy. I think going to the times that I have had dates.
As rare as that may be.
As rare as that may be.
Both of them.
All 2 of my dates that I've had.
2.
Scary movies make for a good date.
Scary movies or like the.
That is absolutely a fact. The very first date I ever went on with Elle, we went and seen Annabelle.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Women in horror movies is definitely.
2,000 Corpses.
Oh wow.
Oh,
I don't.
Wow.
I don't mean just scary movies. I'm talking about like well, you guys don't even probably have cornfields, but the haunted cornfields and all that stuff.
Yep.
Dude, we live in agricultural center of California.
When Kurt and I met, it was at the beginning of October, so most of our first dates were scary movies and cornfields. And the first time he met all of my friends, he was dressed as Alice Cooper, and we had gone to a corn maze haunted house thing with all of my friends. So yeah, we do have those things here. But yes, House of Thousand Corpses, not a great movie. Just saying, not one of my top 10 horror movies that.
Yeah.
No, it was terrible.
I'm not a fan of the Rob Zombie movies in general. I especially hated the Halloween remakes.
Yeah, me too. They were off. They're awful.
Did not dig.
Yep. I think honestly though, and it's something we kind of haven't touched on. So one of my favorite like subgenres of horror movies is comedy horror.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
like
Yeah.
Shaun of the Dead or Gremlins or Evil Dead, Tucker and Dale. God, I love that movie. It's so good.
The movie is it's definitely
The
a nice
Babysitter.
movie.
Have you guys seen that?
Oh yeah, Netflix. That was fun.
So good. It was so entertaining. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't anything spectacular, but it was very entertaining. We actually let our kid watch it, and he doesn't like horror movies at all, and he really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it's a
I
good
just watched one with the same dude that does. I think it's the same guy. And he ends up. I think it's on Netflix. Maybe he ends up killing his brother. And him and his wife take the body out to a lake, and it's like a comedy horror. Oh, it was pretty good actually.
I don't
no
know.
idea.
But now I want to watch whatever that is.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. Hang on.
But yeah,
Somebody in stream or somebody that's watching doesn't know.
I think something I really like about comedy horror and like Shaun of the Dead is there's certain things that like very briefly scare you, but for the most part it's just kind of funny. But it has all of the tropes and things that scary movies have in it, but it's not scary while you're watching it. So it's weird because I don't know, it takes me completely off guard because I'm like laughing the whole time, but it's the same shit you would watch in a scary movie. They just do it in a way that makes you laugh, which is super enjoyable. So
Yeah, slashers are definitely my favorite. It's what I kind of grew up on. My parents traveled a lot. They loved to go on little trips and stuff like that. And my neighbors would always watch me when I was really young. So I'd be left home at like 9 and 10 years old, and they'd take me to the video store and rent like 5 or 8 movies. And I'd rent nothing but horror movies every single time. And I used to rent all of the slashers. So that's definitely my favorite.
I used to go to a little video store by my house when I was younger. The first couple times I went in there, I had to go in there with my mom to get permission, because I used to rent like all the Faces of Death and Beyond Reality movies.
Yeah,
which
Face
are
of
not
Death
horror
is
movies.
not a horror movie.
They're not horror movies. They're just they're something else. But yeah, you start to sleep watching those at night. So I would watch like horror movies and be like, I don't get it. What's the big deal?
Faces of Death was the first legal to rent snuff movie.
Yeah.
It's basically a snuff film.
Yeah.
Don't
But
go
no,
watch
like
that.
no, don't go watch those. That's like rotten.com on a VHS tape. No, when I was younger, early 90s, probably like 91, 92, there was a video company called Full Moon Entertainment.
Mhm.
They did like the Puppet Master movies and like
Okay.
Dark Man and just all those horrible movies.
Dark Man.
Yeah, let me
Puppet
see.
Master
There's-
wasn't. Oh, come on.
I pulled up a list here, like Dollman,
This
all the
wasn't
Puppet Masters,
horrible.
Subspecies, Trancers. What else was there?
Oh, Transfer.
Bloodstone. Yeah, like Bloodstone. Just all these like just weird bad B movies, and I loved them so much. Like I would rent every single one of them that came out and watch it multiple times. They were so great. Those were my favorite.
Zombievers.
Zombievers?
I still need to watch that. I'm sure it's absolutely terrible, but I'm
It's so
sure I
bad.
will enjoy it.
It's so bad, it's good.
I
It's so
enjoy
bad.
zombie stuff so much. I really do.
Yeah. Little known fact: the film company that made Puppet Masters also made Troll, which
Okay.
I saw Troll. We're gonna go back before VHS. I saw Troll on Betamax.
Betamax.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first time I ever saw Troll was on Beta, which was crazy.
Oh,
Awful
awesome.
movie.
Well, as we're kind of wrapping up the end of our topic here, does anybody have any final thoughts on horror movies or any final topics we want to discuss before we close up here for the night?
New Halloween movie comes out on the 19th, this next Friday.
Yeah.
I really hope it does well. I think it will. For all intents and purposes, I think they've done something special with it. From what I've seen, from what I've read, I'm rabidly excited to see it.
Yeah.
I bought all of our tickets last night. Finally went on sale for us here. I got a couple extras just in case. So go check that out. Support the genre as you will. John Carpenter is still doing the music and the sound effects for it. Super happy about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that too. Yes, it should be a very good movie.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Excited. Well, as we're closing up here tonight, I just want to remind viewers that next weekend's podcast is actually going to be in the 9 a.m. slot rather than our typical 8 p.m. slot, because we are going to be going and seeing the Halloween movie together next weekend. So,
I actually have to get up at 9 a.m.
I don't know why you keep thinking that's a good idea.
So next weekend we're going to be talking about the horror genre in video games. Last week we talked about RPGs. This week we talked about movies, and next weekend we will be talking about horror video games. So tune in next week at 9 a.m. On Saturday for our next spooky October themed show. There's the word I was looking for.
I was like, did we just cut?
Katie froze. Sorry. Yeah. So there we go. That's our announcement. And tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. We're going to be playing Friday the 13th.
I actually might tune in for that one. I'm not usually a huge fan of the horror video games, but that one.
Well, it's not about just killing the poor counselors. It's about finding the most efficient and creative way to kill them.
Because the Voorhees family is nothing if not efficient.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in and listening to us ramble on about horror movies today. If you want to send us an email, you can reach us at pixelscandal@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social medias at pixelscandal. You can check out our website at pixelscandal.com, and you can find all of our things, to all of our links to all of our other things on our website. So there you go.
Yeah. Websites and things.
Please always, if you would be so kind, check out our YouTube whenever we upload and subscribe there, and make sure to like it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.